So as I mentioned, we're continuing our discussion on the somewhat evolving role of county boards. And I think kind of following up on the last conversation, the unique opportunity and ability that county boards have to convene partners in the community and foster a collaborative environment that really builds and leads towards a better opportunity for everyone involved, not only those directly supported by county boards, but the community at large. And we want to continue that conversation, in this case, about building collaboratives and building partnerships with a special interest on helping youth transition from school to work. And you're going to hear a lot of information from Alex Corwin in a second here, but one fact that he shared with me when we talked, and I hope I have this right, that is when there's planning going on, if that planning involves 3 or more partners, and I don't know how scientific this is, but Alex said so, so I'll take it as
You're stealing my thunder.
All right. 3 or more partners involved in planning, that the outcomes are generally 5 times more likely to be successful. So the more people you can have involved in some of these conversations, in this case around transition youth, but in general, more people involved, the better the outcomes. So to help us with this conversation and talk us through it today is Mr. Alex Corwin, the program director at OCALI's Lifespan Transition Center. Alex has been a professional in the developmental disabilities field as a job coach, adult day services manager, SSA supervisor, and he previously oversaw the Ohio Transition Support Partnership for Ohio's Department of Education. He continues to promote multi-agency planning to help youth with disabilities fulfill their full potential and reach their adult life goals. So please join me with a warm welcome for Alex Corwin.
All right. Thank you, John. Awesome. We've got to shorten that bio. Good afternoon. I appreciate everybody's time here today and their willingness to be in a session that focuses on transition. I know we have a lot of folks that I'm familiar with in the room that are part of our MAP teams. Quick show of hands, who was in the session right before with our Cuyahoga and Hamilton folks? So those 2 teams, plus the Medina Share Out and the Lucas County Share Out, all 4 of those, ironically, are MAP teams. So this work that I'm going to talk about is a great lead-in to this systems change work and being able to have a very specific direction on what you're trying to accomplish in order to improve the capacity, the collaboration, and the outcomes of the people that you're serving at your county board. So I couldn't have asked for a better lead-in. Hopefully folks get a chance to explore a bit more of what Eric and Julie were sharing. Yeah. Janet, thank you. So as John said, my name is Alex Corwin. I'm the program director at OCALI's Lifespan Transition Center. I'm going to give kind of a brief overview of OCALI. I also have some Menti built into here. So if anyone's familiar with Menti, you'll be able to use your smartphone so everyone can at least pretend like they're continuing to follow along. And for our folks that are hybrid, they're able to kind of join and participate too. So have something built in for both audiences. But real quick, if you're not familiar with OCALI, we are the Ohio Center for Autism and Low Incidence Disabilities. So what we do is we try to have people with disabilities have the opportunity to live their best lives. We try to do that through our mission, which is inspire change and promote access to opportunities for people with disabilities, which dovetails very nicely with the session before us, right, of trying to build capacity within our community in order for our people that we serve to live their best life in wherever they want to be, their community center, the art museum, working in the community, right? And then we also inform public policy and develop and deploy practices grounding in research. So John stole a little bit of my content on the research that guides some of this work and the collaboration that I'll talk about today for our MAP teams, our multi-agency planning teams. We have a ton of centers here at OCALI. You can see them here on the screen. I will say we just wrapped up OCALICon, so I know I've talked to several people that were at our conference last week or 2 weeks ago. And then one other kind of point that I want to note is our lending library. If you're not familiar with it at all, it is a wonderful resource for anyone in the community, whether it's a professional, a person served, a family. We have technology, we have equipment, we have curriculum kits, books, all sorts of things that are available for free, where we'll ship it to you, and then you'll be able to have it for up to 21 days, just like a traditional library, and then we'll give you a box or a package to send it back. So it's all free of charge. There's no cost associated with it. So one of the favorite examples I like to use is that Prolo Quo to Go, right? That app that's pretty expensive, or any other Medicaid kind of speech or communication device that may get paid for. Being able to try it at home in the community with your service providers, right? To make sure it's really helpful for that person before you make that Medicaid expenditure and maybe burn that benefit for 2, 4, or 5 years. So would really encourage folks to check out the lending library at OCALI if you have never used it before. All right, so we're gonna get you guys warmed up on Menti and make sure that the folks that are joining from home or from work virtually for this hybrid session. But if you go to menti.com, you'll be able to type in this code, and then we're just curious to know how many folks are familiar with OCALI already. And you'll have a few different options there about your level of familiarity. But we are just curious to know how many folks already work with OCALI. We heard in the previous session that county boards are the best kept secret, and we often hear that about OCALI. We work with about 30 MAP teams across the state. And that's going to be the project that I talk about here today and the MAP tool that they're using. So 30 is only about a third of the county boards in Ohio. And I would say of the different projects that we have with DODD and the county boards, we aren't even working with half of the county boards here in Ohio. So we'd love to continue to develop that relationship, whether it's school age services, service coordination, community outreach, the lending library, assistive technology. We have a lot of different centers and projects that are able to support you in the work that you guys are doing. So curious to know how many folks are kind of familiar with OCALI. And unfortunately, Menti, we couldn't get it up on the screen here, so I have it on my phone, but for folks that are interested or aren't able to see the results, we have the majority of people are at least somewhat familiar. Some people have heard of us, but maybe not participated in a project or been to a training or been to OCALICon. So this is really, really helpful. So I'm going to go to the next slide, hopefully, and encourage you guys to just share your name, your title, your organization. It's always good to know who's in the room so we can follow up and say, hey, if you were at that session, were you encouraged? Would you like to have some additional facilitation? Again, I see a lot of familiar faces here in the county or in the room that have worked in some of our projects. So always excited to continue working in another capacity or to focus on something outside of transition. But transition is near and dear to my heart, and working with kind of transition age youth and families as they navigate the end of school services, graduation, or exiting school, and getting into adulthood. And what does that look like for their son or daughter or for themselves as they navigate county board and other services. So while folks do that, and we kind of hear from the audience that are joining us online, our MAP teams focus on transition, but why? Like, why are we focused on just this small segment of the youth that county boards are serving? And the reason is, at any given moment in grades 7 and higher here in Ohio, there's 120,000 students on IEPs across the state. Now, not every single one of these students is going to qualify for county board services, but just to give us a rough estimate of how many youth are coming to adulthood that are likely may or may not be connected with the county board at this time. How many folks are still battling the issue of people and families and youth showing up at your doorstep around May or June, letting you know that we just graduated high school and I need to know what I'm going to do with the summer and the fall and everything else now that my son or daughter is done with school? being able to kind of identify these youth at a young age to work with OOD, Family Children First Council, the school in order to really wrap around that student and give them services, work-based learning opportunities, and a host of other things is going to drastically improve their outcomes, as John had mentioned. And we'll share a bit more about that research. But knowing that how many of these students are in the state makes it imperative for us to focus on transition. And for folks that maybe aren't familiar with some of our education law here in Ohio, the transition plan, section 5 of the IEP, becomes a required component once that student turns 14. And the school is charged with bringing together some of these agencies. But as we learned in the previous session, if the schools aren't aware of you themselves, right, if they don't know how to get connected, what your eligibility and intake process is like, what you have to bring to the table around service coordination or family support funds or other opportunities to support them, right, they're not going to reach out to you. They might have other partners that are higher up on their priority list to help support some of these students. So just a quick question. It was great to hear kind of data driving some of the kind of closed door to open door systems change work that's happening in Cuyahoga and Lucas and Medina and Hamilton County. But do you know how many students with disabilities are in your local schools? Do you know how many school districts are in your county? Right? Do you have autism scholarship providers where you might have a large number of students that are going to be eligible for your services in your community? Do you know which of these schools are consistently referring to you, right? You can go back and look at some of this data and work with some of your local school partners and you say, oh, wow, we've got 100 students on IEPs, age 14 and up here at this school at Columbus, which is a very low number for Columbus. And we have 80 of them already identified and connected with the county board. That's wonderful. But if you go back and you have 100 from a school and you only have 2 or 3 identified with case management or even through your intake and eligibility process, you have kind of this really mystery group of people that you're not serving, that you're not aware of what their adult needs could be. And they could come at a time in crisis instead of kind of an opportunity for you to plan with them and be a little more planful in bringing some of these partners together. So this is why we focus on transition. We have a group of youth that are kind of coming through education and are coming through the county board system, and being able to identify them and support them throughout this process leads to better outcomes. And John, yes, you stole my thunder. At OCALI, we always try to follow the research and then try to put it into practice. So students who receive assistance from 3 to 6 community-based agencies as compared to students that received assistance from 0 to 2 were more likely to be engaged in post-school employment or education. And that number is about 5 times more likely. So if you have summer youth work experience, maybe from OOD, and then maybe you get a work-based learning opportunity with OOD, and maybe you're working with your Family and Children First Council with some wraparound services, and then there's an opportunity for you as the county board to join that and have this whole picture of service and supports that sequence and help support that youth and that family towards that vision for a good life, what they want to accomplish as adults, they're going to be 5 times more likely to reach it. They're going to be 5 times more likely to be competitively employed or in a post-secondary education or training program. And it's important to just identify kind of who those partners are and why you might be working with them. So one of our visuals that we like to share is that these multi-agency collaboration teams and just the idea of planning together for your IEP, your ISP, your IPE, all the I's and P's that are out there, is that we can be the vehicle for change, right? We can help youth get to graduation. We can help them with career exploration, which is another predictor of post-school success. We partner with those community agencies that maybe we don't have a strong relationship as the county board, right? If you end up in a dozen IEP meetings with Family and Children First Council, then maybe you start to see the value in having a more consistent collaboration with them. Then there's skill development. And then this is for our folks receiving or looking for graduation pathways, but obtaining the Ohio Means Job Readiness Seal, and then engaging families, right? Making sure that we're connecting with families in school when they have that really trusted partnership, hopefully with school and school personnel that they've been working with for maybe 5, 10, 15 years. and being able to have that warm transition of like, we're here to support you now. We're here to help you navigate kind of the next few years as you transition into independent living, consistent work, adult services, navigating public transit, whatever it could be. But we're here to help support the family and the youth as they work through that process. All right, so we're real quick, if you just kind of return back to Menti, I'm curious to know, who are the folks in your community or your county that supports transition students in planning? Who are folks that you have seen at meetings that students have been able to leverage for service, right? Is it public transit, doing travel training? Is it your, again, Family and Children First Council? Do you have a smart home? Do you have a provider that's doing pre-ets? Do you have a Project Search or a Project Life in your community? There's a lot of transition-specific organizations and resources and services and partners that are designed to help make this process easier for everyone, not just county boards. So I'm curious to know it should be open-ended. You should be able to put in a few, if you want to put in a list separated by a comma and put it in there. But curious to know kind of who people are regularly partnering with for transition age youth. Yeah, so we couldn't get it on the laptop because of the poor connection. So I apologize if it's not able to. Perfect. So yeah, I apologize. Usually we're able to kind of put it up on the screen and we can see everybody's answers. So I'll try to kind of list them as they come through because I'll see them here on my phone. So yeah, I apologize. For whatever reason, the computer wouldn't load Menti. But if there are folks, as you enter them in, if you want to raise your hand, we can kind of call on you and see who are folks that you're joining IEP meetings with, who are different community partners or resources that you are referring students to in order to get experiences or funding or collaborative planning. Do you have transition age partners that you're already working with? And I'll start to read some of these that they come through Menti and try to keep my eyes open for hands. But I see OOD, FCFC, schools, Project Search, job placement rotations, educational service centers, or ESCs that run a lot of programs and offer services, Project Life, local providers, school districts. Someone put Whitney, shout out to Whitney, who's doing great work in the transition space. Teachers, County Board of DD schools, a lot of them are doing summer programming. Family court, summer internship programs, local business partners, Goodwill. Our SSTs are our state support teams. So as we continue to work through, John, I'll make sure that I can turn that into a PDF and you guys can see who people are partnering with in the communities around you, right? That could give you a jumping off point to some of our next kind of conversations and that we'll go through here. For us, the core partners of the core team, the most consistent MAP team members are county boards, schools, but that can be any educational agency. So we heard ESCs are partners, which is great. But schools, whether it's a county board school, a public school, a charter school, anybody that's delivering education. And then our state vocational rehabilitation agency, Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities. These are almost always partners for our MAP teams, and sometimes usually either lead or co-lead this work together at the local level. So why these partners? Well, first, Ohio Revised Code says we shall coordinate actions to support competitive integrated employment. This is through our Employment First rule. Department of Education's operating standard says that schools and school staff must facilitate a planning process across multiple agencies, students, and families. Our federal law, Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, must contain plans, policies, and procedures for coordination between VR, which here in Ohio is OOD, and education. And then finally, the SSA rule says we need to use person-centered planning processes that integrate all services and support available to meet the individual's needs. So I know this is kind of the leadership track. We also have some like SSAs in here, but you don't have to ask permission to do this work. This work has already been tasked to you. I promise you that there is so much benefit to coordinating with some of these local partners and trying to go this route together instead of by yourself, or waiting for students to graduate and then say that they're theirs or that you're ready to serve them. It is very important to connect with these students and families and partners early on, so that way you can facilitate planning and help them get on that higher trajectory for post-school success. So a lot of times we hear kind of like who should participate from the county board. You'll see all the arrows pointing to decision makers. Anyone that is empowered to come to these meetings and not have to say, hold on, I got to talk to my supervisor to make sure we're allowed to do this. I'll get back to you by the next meeting, right? It can be a superintendent. We've had superintendents on these meetings. We've had SSA directors and managers, even transition SSAs that are out there working with schools and families. That way they bring that lived experience and perspective to them. But anybody that is empowered to be decision makers. And it's okay if it takes several of you, but what it shouldn't be is kind of a rotating chairs of, I'm gonna go this time, you'll go next time, right? It has to be a commitment from somebody or a group of team members that are coming together in order to represent the county board. And what have our MAP teams kind of worked on or accomplished so far? They've been able to build kind of these transition-based websites, so that way schools and families know what's available in their community around adult recreation and Special Olympics, transportation. They're able to host collaborative events. You heard, if you were in the last session, you heard Lori from Lucas County Board talk about a lot of the collaborative events that they put on with their partners, right? A lot of them focused on youth and being able to be responsive to what youth want in your community, right? If they want these filmmaking opportunities in a film festival, then go for it, right? But being responsive to your community and what they've been asking for. Being able to share data. We've been able to kind of formalize some different processes, so that way OOD, county board, schools, they're all being invited to each other's meetings, right? Being able to have these kind of comprehensive checklists on who should be included in the meetings, who should be represented, how are we going to communicate information about how Alex did at summer youth work experience, or how he's doing at the internship program at school, what was his career technical lab like at the career center, how is he doing in project search, but formalizing these processes on how to share information, so that way we can continue to keep the plans updated and also align our goals and services. And then some of our MAP teams, and we have several that are piloting some new tools now of these kind of universal referral forms or common referral forms, right? The school has usually the first connection with a family or a youth, and they say, who are you connected with yet? Are you familiar with the county board? Are you familiar with OOD? Are you not? Well, then we're going to check all the partners that you want more information about, and that gets sent over to the intake and eligibility of those agencies. And then they reach out to the family to say, hey, you've been working with Alex at Columbus City. He said that you'd be interested in learning more about the county board and how to become eligible and what we may be able to offer you. Can we schedule an intake meeting, or can we go over the eligibility process? So just being able to have an opportunity for someone else to bring people to your front door, so you're not always trying to track people down yourselves. All right, we're going to see if this works. So we have our spring team showcase. So we bring our MAP teams. Again, we have about 30 here in the state now. We bring our MAP teams to Columbus. They share a bit about what they're working on. So I'm going to do my best to navigate this AV and see if we can mirror this and be able to show folks just a couple of our partners. Our Columbiana County, shout out anybody from Columbiana here. What about Allen County? Oh, all right, let's go. We're going to share both of the stories that you guys have here. So let me see. Screen mirroring. All right. So we'll start with Columbiana.
Comer from Columbiana County Educational Service Center, and I am an employment and transition coordinator. And our team is called PACT, Promoting Agency Collaboration for Transition. And we originally got together at the very first MAP training because we were already working in our county with opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities in the Florida PD, and decided that after getting a lot of phone calls of students leaving high school and that had not been connected to services, we felt a need to get those connections made early and often. So we developed a couple of things through our last tenure, including a brochure that we can give out to parents. We have a one-page referral form that we can refer to each agency at one time, and then the agencies can contact the parents directly. We have magnets that we give out at events, and we currently contact clients through attending their IEP meetings and going to school career fairs and school events. And we've also had a booth at the Columbiana County Fair. So we try to get our word out to not only the special ed directors, but the teachers and parents to help them make those connections so that they have the access to adult programming they need as they leave high school.
All right, so Kitty is from the ESC, but they have a county board member on that team, as well as OOD, and then their Family and Children First Council, and then several schools. So they have a pretty big team, but they've been working together for about 8 or 10 years now. And then our Allen County team will be joining us with the county board rep.
Hi, I'm Sue Savinsky with the Allen County Board of DD.
Hi, I'm Andrew Ellis with Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities.
And we got involved with MAP back in 2017, did the training. And one of the things that came out of that for us was a need for family engagement. How could we get good transition information to families? And at the time, we decided to host something similar to a SALT series, where we have different speakers come in on a monthly basis, and families participated and would be able to ask questions and everything. And it was going along really well. We were getting ready for the second year of that. And then COVID hit and nobody was meeting in public. And we kind of stalled for a bit, but we didn't want to lose our MAP team and our connection.
What we did was sort of look to try to make almost like a one-stop shop with information on resources in the Lima area. So we put together a live binder for families and schools and really anybody in the community to access so they can look to find those resources all in one spot. You know, a lot of times there's confusion, like who do we go to for transportation? Who are the mental health resources, the employment resources, all those things. So our live binder, the whole purpose of it was to kind of bring all of that together in one spot. We have bookmarks that we kind of hand out with a QR code that you can scan on your phone. You can bring up the live binder on your phone to access all of those agencies and all of that information. And you can filter it by employment, by mental health, by transportation, anything, local camps in the area for individuals with disabilities, all sorts of information like that. So our goal was to really bring that all together in one spot, and it's really paid off. I think it's greatly helped families in the community kind of know what all is out there and kind of connect the dots to all those different great resources that we have in the Lima area.
Let's see if I can get back to our previous view here. But I think what the MAP teams are able to do is to identify, what we try to do is like a root cause analysis. So being able to help them identify what are the barriers to post-school success, right? What are the problems that we're having? Perfect. Nice. as a county, as a community, where we continue to see youth just fall off that cliff. When school ends and it comes midsummer and we realize that the school bus isn't going to pick us up in August or September, right? Then I call the county board and I'm like, oh man, I really need to get connected. I'm not sure what we're supposed to do here this fall or for the rest of the winter or school year. So what these folks do in our kind of our typical pathway for our MAP teams is we try to bring together the MAP team members. So those partner organizations, those decision makers within the organizations. We have a couple of MAP modules. They take about 20, 30 minutes. They're online, they're on demand. Teams do them together. They do them separately in between meetings. But then we have a first core team meeting agenda where the team comes together and they'll bring a printout from the modules that says, what are the barriers from your perspective? Why aren't we getting youth successful post-school outcomes? Why do we continue to not have families at our meetings? Why can't we get our providers to potentially provide employment-based services? What are the issues that we're seeing with our transition age youth? And then they come together and have this consensus meeting where they identify their team structure, what's going to be their mission and vision, and then what are going to be some of those barriers that they work on. And then as they kind of identify a barrier, they go through a root cause analysis, whether it's a 5 whys or a SWOT, and they try to figure out what is the reason why we aren't getting families to the table or why youth aren't graduating with any employment experience whatsoever. What are those? Are we just not making the connections? Is OOD not able to make everybody eligible? Do we have a capacity issue? And then they start setting their goals and strategies based around that root cause. So if they identify that maybe the youth that they're working with aren't getting those employment opportunities until after graduation, well, how can we make sure that we get employment services earlier and earlier, career exploration, summer youth work experience, and other competitive integrated employment opportunities, so that way youth at least graduate with an idea of what they want to do for employment instead of starting from kind of ground zero on, I don't know what anything about work or what industries are in my community or what businesses are here. So they start to set these goals and strategies around their root cause. So being very intentional with what they're working on together and making sure that everybody is in agreement on that barrier, that root cause, so that way they all have skin in the game and everyone is working towards that same goal. So this is just a real quick kind of snapshot of like the homepage. I won't try to navigate and continue to battle the AV here, but it's very simple to just kind of log in at the top, being able to set like the county that you're in, and then you can invite team members. It's all automated through the system. There's an action plan, the modules, there's even a file library in there. So anything that you do create, whether it's a brochure or a PowerPoint, all of it's able to be kind of uploaded into that system. So it's in one place and we're not kind of battling version control or email attachments, trying to find everything that's kind of floating out there in cyberspace. But again, the map modules are within there. They've found within the map tool. We call them creatively Foundation Map Concepts 1 and 2. They should together take less than an hour or about an hour. And then that first core team meeting agenda is all set. Myself, other OCALI team members are able to help facilitate those meetings, as well as some other team members that I'll go over here shortly. But it's all kind of chunked out for these map teams. And then the second map module goes over the root cause analysis. So you could pick whichever one you're most familiar with or interested in, whether it's a SWOT or a 5 whys, and you try to navigate that gap to that vision for your community, right? If it's everybody graduates with a comprehensive transition plan, or everyone is connected with the county board or with OOD that's eligible, or everyone graduates with some work history, whatever that goal is going to be for you guys. And then this is an example of one of the goals that one of our MAP teams have worked on. They identified that students were graduating without any employment history or any kind of employment experience whatsoever. So you'll see the goal in the middle. It says every student in their county will have a work-based learning opportunity before graduation. And now our blue squares around the outside are the strategies for how they wanted to try to get there. There likely is not going to be one single strategy that you're going to follow that's going to kind of remove these historic barriers in your counties or communities. So they first identified that they want to do a summer youth work experience fair in order to go into every school district and tell them about OOD's summer youth work experience and try to get students signed up. Let them know that they could even get paid for the experience. It's a few weeks over the summer. Here are some of the job opportunities or employers that you could potentially work with in the summer. And then they had OOD go and cross-train all the local educators on services, intake, and eligibility. So that way, if anyone wasn't able to go to the fair, they were still able to get them connected, and educators knew how to identify those folks and get the process started. Then the MAP team met with the Career Center to understand all the career technical labs and other work-based learning opportunities that they had. So that way they could be informed, they could share the information with their SSAs, with their educators, and then they could try to get more students into the Career Center. And then finally, they worked through some federal grants to develop a work-based learning program through their ESC for youth with intellectual disabilities. So they brought Project Life to their local ESC as another work-based learning opportunity for them to continue to have options for folks. So if they had maybe a group of students that were really kind of excited for a summer youth work experience, and that was going to be enough to kind of give them that boost into competitive integrated employment. But they wanted to make sure that those students, maybe with more barriers to employment, had additional services and programs. So they worked with the ESC, they developed the whole Project Life program and started enrolling students. So they focused themselves around this barrier or this goal. And then they work together to leverage each other's systems, cross-train each other, and even develop new services and programs. So this is just a quick snapshot of the action plan. It's pretty small, so I apologize for that. But you'll see their goal is at the top, their strategy is there, and then anyone that's on the MAP team within the MAP tool, you can assign them tasks with due dates, and the system will give them alerts or nudges. You can keep each other kind of accountable for doing work in between meetings. You can, again, be able to just continue to move this work forward, because we know having several different organizations with competing priorities and other projects, having at least one place where this action plan can live and breathe and be updated is great. This can also be downloaded and shared with leadership. It can be downloaded and shared with your board to show the level of collaboration that you guys are doing. It'll show all the different accomplishments and tasks that you've completed. So it is a system designed to be user-friendly for all the different organizations. So real quick, just to let you guys know, we have several different partners that are able to support MAP teams, whether that's getting started, facilitating a root cause analysis, even just coming in and helping maybe give a small pitch or training on what it is and how to get started. My team at OCALI and the Lifespan Transition Center, DODD's Community Life Engagement Team. So there's several of those regions. So the Tom Hess and Britta Huff and Sarah Burnham and others across the state. And then for our educational partners that may be really reluctant, our state support team, transition consultants. There are 16 state support teams across the state that report up to the Office for Exceptional Children at the Department of Education. They are all familiar with this process, this tool, and this program, so they would be able to help folks kind of navigate and get started as well. So again, at OCALI, we like to follow the research. It does say that training sessions are great, but unless you make a plan to use this information afterwards, then it's not going to potentially have legs, or is less likely to have some legs to it. So to help everybody kind of understand maybe what their next steps could be, depending on where they're at, we kind of break folks into 3 different groups, a little bit like the closed door, transitioning, and open door that we heard in the previous session. We have our storming session where we're brainstorming on what partners and what the expectations are, what our MAP team's going to do. Our norming stage is where we're like normalizing this work and collaboration together. So we're creating our team in the MAP tool. We're inviting all of our team members. We're doing those modules, and we're making sure that we have all the right people at the table. And then performing, which is kind of where we start to see all the fun stuff happen. You complete your root cause analysis, and you have this kind of northern star that you're working towards, whether it's a goal or a root cause, and you guys you work together to kind of sequence service, program funding, and other information in order to kind of hit your stride. So I'm curious to know, I know we have at least a couple MAP teams in the room. Show of hands, who is currently on a MAP team or has a MAP team in their county, or has heard the term map team before? All right, a few. So we'll do our last Menti on where do you think you are in relationship to your county board's level of collaboration. Are you, again, are you storming? Are you still unsure who in your community are going to be partners for transition? Are you trying to normalize that level of collaboration, whether it's a MOU, an interagency agreement, or just making sure that you're getting these consistent people to the table? Or do you already have a map team and you are humming along, you guys are identifying issues and you're addressing them together? So I know we have about 15 minutes left. In true nerd form, I have a handout for us to do a little bit of work here before we leave. But before that, I wanted to see if there were any questions around map teams or how to get started, or even understanding if maybe there is already one in your community or nearby that you could collaborate and learn from.
Great. Got a question already.
And so far, it looks like we're over all 3 stages of collaboration.
Thanks. This is for you or anyone else who's on a map team currently. What barriers, when you were developing these teams from other agencies, has anyone come up against? And I guess then how did you overcome those?
Yeah, so the question was, as you start your map team and you engage those partners, what barriers have you experienced and how have you overcome them? So I would say first it is because it's everyone's job to organize transition and person-centered planning and sequences services, it becomes no one's job, right? No one wants to take the lead for map work because it's everyone's job. So I think sometimes finding a passionate partner to work with you on it to get going. If you, again, I apologize, I continue to reference the previous session. They talked about finding those easy wins, right? Finding success early, bringing folks to the table. A lot of times they focus on cross-training each other, right? Like we don't know enough about each other to even work together and collaborate and do intake and referrals with each other. So let's start there. Let's at least train everybody on everyone that's part of the map team and what you offer. And then it usually jumps into family engagement. How do we then take this knowledge and inform families about it? So I would say finding those like easy wins early on. And if you only come with 1 or 2 partners, right? One school could even be your county board school. You may already have a partnership with OOD to serve adults, and maybe you just focus more on the transition age youth for this project. But trying to find those partners that you're already connected with and giving them a little bit of direction here for transition.
Thank you.
Other questions? I bet there may be a few more by the time you're done with your exercise.
I will say, again, we have 30 map teams across Ohio. We have large counties, Hamilton County, Lucas County, Cuyahoga County. We have small rural counties, Defiance, Putnam, Paulding. They are scattered throughout the state. They are in all shapes and sizes. To Eric's previous point, all the different sizes of counties have their advantages. When we started a map team in Paulding County, they already all knew each other. They already all knew each other's organizations because it's a small community and they were already working together. What they wanted to do was say, what's the next step? We just can't find out why we continue to have these problems with students and families coming to us in the 11th hour or graduating and then falling off the map for us and then coming back when they have a crisis. How do we just stay connected with people? So that's been their focus. So it can be any size county or community. I would really encourage you to potentially come to the map team showcase. It'll be in May in Columbus. I can make sure that I share that information through OECB. But I want to just stress that it really can be any county out there that does this work in any kind of iteration.
Alex, I do have a question maybe related to that. Have your teams been involved in any counties or situations where maybe the purpose was to overcome some tension that exists where there may be difficulties between boards and districts, or any variation of the partners involved?
What? That never happens. We never
Well,
run
I
across
can't.
that.
I suspect it.
Yeah, sometimes MAP team members need to be replaced. It happens, right? Sometimes organizations need to find that passionate person that has the vision for transition and bring that person into the conversation. And other times, it's just opening the lines of communication, right? There may be one previous experience or issue that has soured the relationship for 2, 3, 4 years now, and just bringing everyone to the table to talk and just say, hey, what are we all working towards here? And how can we do it better together? I think we have had some of those experiences, especially with schools being really reluctant to engage partners that underdeliver and overpromise. So being able to bring schools in to say, everyone that qualifies for the county board doesn't get an IO waiver. It's a needs-based process, right? And being able to combat some myths has really helped set expectations with the partners to say, the collaboration is going to look different for every student and family, but we are here to support you guys together.
I bet that outside voice, that third party, can really help make a difference in many situations.
Having DODD or the SST or OCALI being able to just kind of help navigate some of those conversations it can be helpful too. All right. So I do apologize, but the research shows, and you'll probably hear me say that a lot if you hang out with me too much, that you have to make a plan to kind of do this work. So John and I will hand out, this handout is in the OACB
website. Go to the convention website. I think it's on Member Connected. All these materials are available.
So we'll do some hard copy versions, but take 5 minutes, just think about maybe where you're at with your collaboration and see what might be the next step. Is it bringing this information to your board or to your superintendent? Is it talking to your transition SSAs about what may be the barriers in your community? Is it even talking to your SSA department about, do we have transition SSAs? Why don't we have those? Should we think about getting some? Should we try to cross-train some folks? And I promise you do not have to turn this in. This is for your use only. Yeah, thank you. You're going to be next on my list. Oh no, I'm running out. Oh, John, I ran out for the last 2 rows. Perfect. Like I got 1. I do. Yes. Yeah. Yep. There was a question about, do I have a list of all the MAP teams out there? And I do. I don't have a slide for it today, but please feel free to email me or reach out to OACB. I can make sure you guys get that list. You don't want to have more than 1 MAP team, right, in a community or county. So making sure you guys are joining forces with anything that might already be in your community. Okay, so knows it. Okay. Okay. Yeah. 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 100%. Yeah. And yeah, navigate that. Right. Yeah. Right. 100%. Yeah. And unfortunately, the title of the organization may or may not have a good reputation right in the community. And that's something that everybody, all those partners have to navigate at any point in time. But I don't know what it is about the southern part of the state, but we have a lot of that, like, this is my turf. I don't really need your help. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's an interesting take. I'm from Northwest Ohio, right? So that wasn't something that I ever came across. Yeah. All right. So I said you didn't have to submit it, but does anyone want to tell with the group what their next steps are going to be? Because sometimes learning from each other and what you're planning to do may inspire someone else to follow a similar path or take a similar step. Does anyone want to share what their next step is around map teams and transition following today's session? See a couple strong hard passes over here. Yeah. Yes, the question is, what do you want to share? You don't have to. What your next steps are for MAP or transition focus or just collaborating with your partners. Yes. Oh, yeah.
All right, Julie, thanks for being brave.
First thing I'm going to do is get together our principal. We still have a school, some district reps, our DD Children's SSA that's in the room right now that helps with transition, and brainstorm about the mapping process. And
Yeah.
I think we need to start that discussion, but also bring in OOD,
Yeah.
FCFC. We all know each other, so but I think just making a point to do it and to do it together.
Yep.
We haven't really done that.
What county are you from?
Lawrence.
Lawrence. Yes. Southern part of the state. Yeah. Lawrence. We've done some, is Ray Blevins used to? Yes. Yeah, he was a big proponent of the map work and right. And
Starting off.
yep. Yeah, hopefully the relationships are all still there and can pick right up where you left off. Patrick.
So I currently run a Wayne County transition team, including all 12 schools, OODs involved, service providers involved, SSA transition is involved. And right now we're doing monthly information meetings with different topics that are transition related. So the relationship is there, the team is set up. Now it's just getting everybody on board for the map tool.
Yeah.
And the barrier that I'm facing now is getting buy-in for additional stuff that I'm asking the schools to do.
Yeah, through those map modules, there can be two teams within a map team. We call it the broader implementation team. So every school rep, potentially some transition coordinators, transition SSAs, folks that maybe are going to be working directly with students or teams and families writing plans, and then a core team, right? They may meet between those monthly meetings. They may prioritize some of the work. They may be able to make decisions, but having both is really important. So continuing to have that connection with folks that are doing the work, it can keep you informed of what the barriers are. You can share that information or anything you develop or get their feedback on piloting and other things. So yeah, I think sometimes those core teams kind of branch off because some folks can't handle any more additional capacity, and that's okay.
Well,
All
we are right on time. Alex, thank you so much for sharing all the information.
Yeah, thank you.